Hello to everyone and the internet. It is currently Woden's Day, January 16th, 2019. I am Nathan of Washington, and you are watching The Young Globalist. This is the news. Alright, everybody. So, the French police all but murder a firefighter who joined the protests. The protests were peaceful until 4:30 p.m. when the French police began using tear gas. And as the protesters fled, a plainclothes officer came around a corner and shot a flashball and nailed the firefighter, Olivier Bezier, in the head. He is now in a medically induced coma to repair the damage to his body. This is something that sometimes medical practitioners do. The body has natural healing processes, right, that are at work. And these processes are very powerful. Although much like a computer program that eats up resources, different functions of both the body and the brain, if there's too many things going on in the body, it can slow shit down. So if you put someone in a medically induced coma, you lower their body's activity level, and that repair mechanism can just go nuts on that wound. Try and heal it. Although sometimes a wound can be so severe that there's literally no point. But this is apparently not one of those kinds of wounds. This is something that could heal over time, but it's going to take a while. So they're pretty close to death. Very close to death. He's right on that line. And almost at the same time as getting hit with the flashball, another officer threw in a grenade of some kind. Probably tear gas grenade. Idiot. The French police have been totally excessive lately. Baton beatings, flashbangs, flashballs, and shots to the head. Even though they've been instructed to aim lower than the head. And not only that, but they've been pretty much all been unprovoked, based on the footage of the scene of the crime. They've all been completely unprovoked in doing so. Olivier Bezier is a father of 3, and his wife is absolutely furious, saying, "This is unacceptable. I won't let it go. The pictures speak for themselves." My bottom line is, I will continue to not recognize the French government as legitimate. They've gone completely despotic. Because not only are they allowing their police to do this, they all but ordered them to do it. This is part of their agenda. I mean, the French government is just completely evil. I refuse to recognize them as the true government of France. I currently recognize the yellow vests as the government, practically, for all intents and purposes. The French government is completely tyrannical and needs to be put down, like a dirty, sick animal. Because that's pretty much what it is at this point, a dirty, sick animal. Jair Bolsenaro is abolishing gender education in Brazilian schools. Gender Ed in Brazil pushes a pro-transgender agenda. Now look, if you're an adult, you can do to your body whatever you want. I happen to know a couple transgender people, and I'm cool with it. Because they're adults. What I'm not cool with is either teaching it or forcing it on to children, to vulnerable children, who are impressionable and will think it's, real, and that it's not a mental illness, which I believe it is. Bolsonaro is appointing Ricardo Rodriguez to bring back traditional conservative education for like the first time in either North or South America. Either of the Americas. This will be the first time in a long time. It's kind of funny how he advertised it, though. Bolsonaro was wearing a Japanese soccer shirt and saying that 6 or 7-year-old kids in Japan can solve math problems that Western kids cannot even solve, even in high school. And yet we're teaching them, gender education. Yeah. That's a very good point. Oh, but gee, why would a Brazilian be wearing a soccer shirt of any nationality? Yeah, no, those South Americans are really high on their soccer. I mean, they love it. They get into big old fights over it. I mean, at one point in Venezuela, before the country failed, I believe it was Maduro who actually had plans to build a soccer stadium in every major city, even in the small cities. Right, that's how crazy they are for soccer. And the British. The British will get into it, too. And the Japanese. There are some countries that just get absolutely crazy over it. Here in the States, it's not even that big a deal. We got our own brand of football. And tackle football. Although regular football is arguably a lot safer. Soccer. But this is a great thing he's doing. And here's why. Here's why. These kids are vulnerable. Alright? New ideas and new information, right? Their brains are like sponges. They just soak it all up. It's part of their developing minds. There are certain parts of their brains that will be more active than any other time in their life. So you start teaching them this agender crap, this agender, you can be a boy or a girl if you want, whichever one you want. You teach them this crap. And they soak it up and they think it's real. You know, they're impressionable. They don't know any better yet. A lot of them. Some do, but some of the kids are going to be abnormally precocious. Most of them won't. Most of them will not be able to process the information. They'll treat it as all real and legitimate. And then they'll become transgender too. Essentially spreading what I still see as a mental illness, which can be dealt with. Bottom line is, if you're an adult, you can do whatever you want to your body. But if you're encouraging kids to do it, you've crossed the line. And as far as I'm concerned, when you've crossed that line, you should be doing time. But bottom line is, I gladly support true conservative thinkers. Not like millennial conservatives who are basically cowards. Oh, sure, they hold truly conservative views, but they must not believe in them because anytime the left tackles them to the ground, metaphorically speaking, you know, attacks them for their holding conservative views, they just kind of, they're like, yeah, okay. You know, they just sort of cower. Right? They're like Ted Cruz. They're cow-servatives. They're cowards. Bottom line is, the millennial generation will never provide any good politicians ever. They're not true conservatives. If you are not suffering for your values, then are they really your values? Or are they just something you're regurgitating without really believing in it? You gotta suffer for your values. Otherwise, they're not really your values. I only support the true conservatives. French court bans Roundup Pro 360, a Monsanto product containing glyphosate, which is a registered carcinogen. Now, they say that so many things cause cancer. This causes cancer, that causes cancer. Putting your food in the microwave causes cancer, blah, 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 blah. Swedish Institute of Cancer proves that cancer is not caused by any of that shit. It proves that cancer is caused by malfunctioning DNA. From malfunctioning DNA, which is usually caused by high levels of foreign acidity, which is why you can block cancer-causing substances when you alkalize your body. If you absorb it, if you eat, consume, and absorb a lot of alkaline food. Alkaline is a form of semi-solid metal, a mineral which you can absorb, and it's also sometimes used in batteries. You can eat it in food and absorb it, and it'll help reinforce your body against cancer. It's certain types of acids that cause cancer, cause malfunctioning DNA. And glyphosate, I think, could contain some of those acids that cause cancer, certainly. The data would seem to reflect that. The data would seem to reflect that reality very much. But of course, Monsanto doesn't care about human lives; they care about money. And it's a $67 billion industry or something like that for them. Of course, Monsanto now belongs to some German company called Bayer. Actually, I think we know them pretty well here in the United States. I think they make baking soda, or was that Arm & Hammer? I remember a few Bayer products around the house when I was a kid. I didn't know they were a German company. I always thought they were American, but anyway. Bottom line is the French court saw it and they decided, yeah, this stuff is not safe. We're not using this. And the French can be very snooty when it comes to farming and cooking, because that's like one of their main cultural obsessions. And in this case, it looks like it's a good thing. Their snootiness is actually keeping them safe from the Monsanto cancer machine. But of course, they're trying to claim that the court's decision was illegal, and they're trying to challenge it, of course. Because they got more money to make, obviously. They're not going to win, though. I certainly hope they won't. Moving on. Russia does not want America interfering in the affairs of other countries anymore. Sends a stern warning. They were particularly talking about Venezuela. And surprise, surprise, there's a photo of Vladimir Putin and what's-his-face, Maduro meeting, face-to-face and sharing a photo op. Possibly Russia not wanting us to mess with one of their possible allies. But it is true that America has been supporting anti-government forces in the various countries in South America and in the Middle East. So I am against it just as much as the Russians are, but I also have to ask about Russia's warning. What are you going to do, Russia? Go to war with us? What are you honestly going to be able to do that won't cause just a huge mess? Arguably an even bigger mess. I mean, I'm all for anti-war sentiments, but don't send warnings to people if you can't back it up. And if you do back it up, you're going to create problems somehow, I'm sure. But then again, Russia, weirdly enough, has had our back in certain areas, like Putin literally scolding the ever-loving crap out of George Soros for being the one who really meddled in our election. I don't understand Putin. I can't seem to peg the guy. I don't get him. It's like one minute he can be our sworn enemy, and the next minute he can be like one of our greatest allies. His positions are all crisscrossed, and I don't get the guy. He's complicated. I mean, he's internally consistent. He's not cognitively dissonant or nothing, but he just blows me away with how complicated he is. Oh, wow, the dude is one hell of a human being. Bottom line, though, is the Russia's threatening over us, over our interference in South America in particular. We'll see how it comes out of that soon, I'm sure. Moving on to our final story today. FBI lawyer James Baker is being investigated for undermining the Trump administration. Directly undermining. Yeah, get with the program, James Baker. You're not supposed to undermine the Trump administration directly. You're supposed to do it indirectly. You're supposed to take a stealth trip to Russia and pay for a fake dossier, so you can do a false investigation and hope for an impeachment. That's how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to go and build yourself a Steele dossier. You're not supposed to do it directly. But no, they're digging into this guy, and he broke the rules, and now he's paying for it. Of course, I think the whole organization should pay dearly for what they've been doing lately with this Mueller probe witch hunt. So who cares about one lawyer who done something suspicious? Who gives a shit? They're all suspicious. All these alphabet soup agencies. Pretty much at this point, I'd say they should all just go the way of the fucking dodo. Or at the very least, restrict the FBI to only a couple departments. One of those departments should be the X-Files department, which is what the sci-fi TV series is named for. Because there's a lot of weird cold cases and mysteries in the X-Files department. And the cold cases are particularly something that I think should be continually pursued. But most agencies, I would say, abolish the CIA, get rid of them. NSA, bye-bye. Keep the FBI, but, dial them back to only, 2 departments. Anyway, that's it for the Young Globalist today, folks. I'm out.